Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Good Times with your host, JR. Gonna be doing this one solo today. There's so much to talk about, though. I was planning on making this podcast over this past weekend, but one thing led to another. Ended up feeling under the weather. Ended up sleeping like 12 hours in a day, probably longer one of those days. I was planning to still do it the next day after, but for whatever reason, I just didn't feel like doing it. Had to finally make myself get up and finally do it a couple days later, but here we are. So I hope you guys do enjoy. And there's a lot to talk about today. Since it was a couple more days than I normally do it, we'll be talking about the recap of the game that just happened yesterday, as well as the trade rumors with the Chicago Bulls. Taking a look at some teams to see how they're doing so far. Some streaks that are going ongoing as far as winning streaks, losing streaks, seeing how that goes. And yeah, there's plenty of more to talk about as well. So I hope you guys do have a good time and grab yourself something to drink, something to eat, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so the first thing I do want to talk about is last night's recaps. There were quite a few games that were ongoing. The first one I do want to mention is the Rockets and the Warriors. So that game ended up in a 121 to 116 final score with the Warriors on top. I mean, I feel like there's quite a bit to talk about just there alone. It's kind of showing the Warriors, just they're struggling right now. And the only reason why they did win was because Curry wasn't injured. He's actually playing. If it wasn't for him, they would have lost. And Klay Thompson finally contributed in some way. I've seen plenty of games where he would shoot 3 of 10, somewhere around that range all the time, just not even hit 20. So, I mean, good thing he did contribute during that time. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have made it. Andrew Wiggins, I don't really believe did anything really. And of course, they didn't have Draymond Green, which we'll talk about that more later on in the video. On the upside, what that does show is Sengun. I mean, he's still showing how much of an impact he's going to make for not only the Rockets but for the NBA. It's it's kind of amazing, what he's accomplishing with this short amount of time with the Rockets. I mean, they're not a team that is going to be a contender. Nobody is saying that they're going to be, maybe not even a playoff spot. I'm sure maybe down the road they'll get into a play in once everybody gets a little more acclimated into their roles, into the season. I know there's some players that are in shooting slumps, so I mean, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But with the Rockets, I mean, their trio with the double J's and Sengun, I mean, he has 30 points in that game. It's it's very impressive. I mean, 30, 13, and 5 for a young guy that I don't even really think people thought of him as being a potential part of the future, at least to this caliber that he is currently showing. I mean, that in itself is very impressive. The next game we can talk about is the Celtics and the Hornets. Pretty devastating defeat for the Celtics. They went all the way to overtime, lost to the Hornets, 118 to 121. I know Jason Tatum, it must suck going for 45, 13, and 6 and still losing the game. I mean, what else do you want from somebody that is doing that great and it's still not enough to push them up to the lead and win that game for them? And for the Hornets, I mean, this is probably their probably the third, if not fourth game that they've won of the season. So this isn't anything significant that will impact their season. I know they are at one of the bottom teams in the East, but a good highlight is seeing LaMelo Ball with that 36, 9, and 8. I feel like seeing this game, it made me feel that this will be a future matchup that will be really highlighted in the next couple years. I feel Jason Tatum is already solidified. He's already a superstar in the league, probably top 5, for sure top 10, but maybe even top 5. But LaMelo Ball, hopefully he doesn't keep getting injured every season, misses some games, and keeps improving. I mean, this right here, who knows, maybe in a couple years. I personally don't see him staying with the Hornets long term. I feel like he's more of a big lights, somewhere more of a primary market, big city, wherever that may be. I don't know if that could be New York, um, LA. I mean, anywhere really, just not a smaller market. Hornets aren't really a team that people really think about as far as the NBA. So we'll see. I would like him to go somewhere. I don't. It doesn't really matter where. Just somewhere that he can show his true potential and hopefully keep improving. And another team that I did see was the Clippers. They won again against the Spurs. I mean, albeit it is the Spurs, they do have the worst record in the West, so that's not really showing much. But at least they are beating now the teams that they should be beating. What kind of contender wouldn't be able to have the capability of beating the teams that they're supposed to? I mean, there's going to be no chance once it gets later into the season. So, I mean, at least they're getting into that. I mean, everybody did their thing. It feels like hopefully, everyone's starting to understand their roles more. I know Russell Westbrook recently, he did tell the coaching staff he wants to come off the bench. He is taking that role into being the bigger person and saying, "Hey, I'll be on the bench. If that's the better for the team, by all means, I'll do that as long as we're able to win and keep moving forward with this team." So hopefully that does help out with the whole James Harden issue. I know they were on a 4 or 5 game losing streak, so maybe that is going to keep up some momentum. I know that's 2 games that they've won now in a row since that did start happening, so that's looking good for them. Hopefully they can keep continuing it. The Spurs, oh man, the ending of the score was 124-99. There's no offense on that team. Wembanyama, as good flashes as he has been making, I mean, he's not making that big eruption as they were making it seem. They were saying he was going to be the next LeBron. He has had some good games, maybe 1 or 2 30-plus point games. This game he did struggle. It's definitely going to be a learning process for him. Looks like mainly for his shooting. Hasn't been very efficient, but I'm sure the more time goes on, he'll get more acclimated. Maybe fill in that body with more weight. That can make it easier for him to, just be able to paint more and be more efficient. So hopefully that does. I mean, I'm sure it will work out, but hopefully sooner rather than later. Some other quick notable teams that I did see was the Timberwolves. Again, ended up winning. They are number one. We'll talk about them in a little bit too. They beat the Knicks. I mean, as far as everything has been going, that's kind of a predictable outcome. Real quickly with the Pelicans, they ended up destroying the Kings. The Pelicans, I feel I'm a little iffy with them. It's a team that has the potential to be big. They can make some big moves here to, just be better overall and be a playoff contender. Not a contender for a chip, but at least do something that, people aren't going to be afraid to face them in the playoffs. As far as the Kings, I mean, everybody loses. I don't see this as being something, even though it was a really bad score, and everybody ends up losing, which is fine. They didn't really look that great. The shooting wasn't good either, but it's okay. Nothing to worry about with just one game. They've been looking good overall in the season. And then just some quick trends that I've been seeing as far as winning streaks, losing streaks. Right now on the West, OKC, the Thunder, even though they're young, they are still showing that they can now compete with everybody. It's not just going to be every now and then. I mean, out of the past 12 games, I think everybody has been playing now, or at least around there. Being on a 5-game win streak with some teams that they've beat, I mean, that's showing right now that they're here to stay, and they haven't shown any signs that they're going to stay away from that. So, Shea, Josh Giddey, Chet, and all the other players. I mean, hopefully they stay together. I don't think that they necessarily should try to push for anything as long as everyone is improving. If anybody will have to go, I think will be Josh Giddey, but he's showing his improvement. So I mean, I don't think anybody should think about anything like that. So hopefully everything just stays intact and they just keep improving together. And then on the East, looks like the Bucks are starting to figure it out as far as winning the games. I know as far as the duo with Giannis and Lillard, I know it seems like they've been having their issues together. I know when they're away from the court, one of them is away and just one of them is on the game. They're improving. They're able to contribute well. just not together. I don't know what it is with them not being able to play very well together. It's just maybe just chemistry. They got to get a little more used to each other. I mean, considering that they are on a 5 game win streak, at least they are on a right path to set themselves up for the playoffs. Even though it's still early, it's good to keep that foundation and improve. Just keep improving, and I'm sure everything will come. I have 2 teams on the West and 2 teams on the East that, instead of winning streaks, are on really bad losing streaks. These teams overall, they're just bad. I mean, these are the 4 teams that are going to be racing for those number 1 picks, number 2s, and try to improve their team in the future. For the East, I have the Wizards and the Pistons. They are not good teams. I know Jordan Poole, he hasn't been doing good at all. Kyle Kuzma, I mean, I feel like this team in general is probably the best out of the 4 that I'm going to list, just based off of who they have now, but they don't look any better than these other guys. I don't know. I think, I mean, it's possible that maybe one of them will end up getting traded at some point. Maybe a contender eventually will. I don't think anybody will want Jordan Poole, but Kyle Kuzma, I think he's still viable. He is by far the best player on this team. Unless he wants to stay there, who knows? But I don't see why he'd want to stay there. Unless he's just content. I mean, that's another thing. But I don't know. They don't really have anything to look forward to. And the Pistons, I mean, they're young. They have Cade trying to get him to grow. Among other players that, they do have one of the Thompson twins is on there. So they just got to be patient on there. I mean, it's not going to be just from one day to the next. So just got to wait on that. The other 2 teams on the West, there is the Spurs and the Trailblazers. Again, just like the Pistons, these teams are just really young. The Trailblazers just blew it up. They got rid of Lillard, got a bunch of different assets. They're probably just trying to figure it out on which players are going to stay, which ones are going to go, and just keep rebuilding from there. I think that's a smart move. I think they got some pretty good pieces based off of the players that they did get so far, plus draft capital. So that's looking good for them. They can potentially start improving, not quickly, but start growing the actual team that they want to grow pretty soon. By that, I mean maybe in a year or 2, and just go from there. And as far as the Spurs, I mean, they have their generational talent already set up in Wembanyama. So, as I was saying earlier with the team that they were playing against, with who were they playing? The Clippers. He hasn't been doing so great as of late. I mean, just in general, he's been up and down, which is fine. I mean, not everybody is going to come into the league and be a LeBron James and just be amazing from the very beginning. Very few people can do that. I don't know, they just got to be patient. All right, so let's talk about the Timberwolves. They are number 1 in the West right now with the 10-3 record. I can tell you, I don't watch every game in the NBA. There's only a certain amount of teams that I will take a look at. I'll see who's going to play. Of course, I'm going to watch every Laker game that I possibly can. There's a couple teams that I see, I'm like, okay, that's going to be a good matchup. Let's watch that. But I can tell you that I've never once saw a Timberwolves game and was interested in thinking that was going to be a good game. So I was just so confused when I saw the records at one point, not even realizing that they are number 1 in the West with that 10-3 record. I would never have predicted that. I don't even know what to say, to be honest. I'm honestly just like baffled that that's happened. And I looked at their records, and they've beaten contending teams. They've beaten many teams that are considered to be playoff seeds that are going to be able to make a playoff push. Anthony Edwards, he is leading the team in scoring. I think this year definitely has shown that officially this is his team, if it didn't already happen last year. But Anthony Edwards is a solidified superstar, and I think at this point they got to just kind of see what to do going forward. I know there was already concerns about if the whole Cat and Gobert was going to mesh well, and at first it wasn't. So far it's looking good, and hopefully they can just keep on capitalizing doing that. I know if they're going to keep on going forward with Anthony Edwards, I don't know if they're going to plan on keeping Cat. I'm not sure what their salary caps are, so they'll have to take a look at that. I'm not really fully aware of what it's looking like there, but clearly that's going to be the number 1 option. So if they need to get rid of somebody at any point and just improve the team off of there, it's going to be him. Karl Anthony Towns is doing good though. I know I saw his plus minus and his just his statistics in general. So he's doing well. Gobert is doing his thing. I know he's not known to be a scorer, but he's doing well overall. Now, do I think that or the Timberwolves are going to be the number one team in the West the end of the season? No, I don't even think it's gonna happen even close. But I will say that this looks like they might end up making it to the playoffs, whether that is up to the sixth seed or potentially win a game in the play-in. I do know that they will make it to at least qualify for a play-in game. I mean, if they're playing like this well now, unless there's some horrible injuries that occur and some notable players have to miss a lot of games. I mean, that every team has the potential of that happening. Hopefully it doesn't. Right now, I can see them making it in the playoffs. Maybe a six seed. I don't think they'll end up beating off. It's what are some teams? The Nuggets. I don't think they'll end up beating off. Uh, the Lakers, even the Mavs. I can see being better than the Timberwolves overall, at least record wise. I mean, that's three teams there already. They can beat the Clippers. The Suns could be another team that they'll end up. I mean, that one's a toss up though. That we'll talk about them a little bit more in a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I am very impressed with what I saw, and I will make sure that I keep an eye out on them more. Notably, Anthony Edwards. Make sure even if I miss the games that I can't watch. I mean, I can't watch every single game. I have a job. So hopefully I can just be a little more aware of them and see what's going on with them. Just thinking of the Timberwolves, I have actually truly realized. I mean, it's always been a thing with the West since I don't know how long ago, but the West is really competitive. And seeing the Timberwolves being in the number one spot at the moment, last year before the injuries, the Pelicans were the number one spot, which was a smaller sample size, but it just shows how competitive the West is. I mean, one week it's showing the Timberwolves, another week it's going to show another team. Maybe OKC will be number one in a couple weeks. And I think it's going to keep showing that trajectory. There's going to be so many different teams up until it finally leads towards maybe the last fifth of the season when there's another, 5, 10 games left. Maybe at that point, we'll start seeing the true seedings of what it'll be. But from now all the way up until maybe February, we're going to see teams just climbing and just falling from the West. And I think it's pretty exciting because it shows, at least for the West, every game is so important. And with the tournament that's going on as well, since those games are also so viable for the seeding, they're going to be counting every single game to be part of the season. I mean, every game is so important for the West that nobody can be losing. They can't afford to lose. I mean, even with the Clippers, I haven't seen Kawhi, Paul George missing much games, so maybe they understand now this year is more important than ever that they might not even make it to the playoffs. So, I'm excited that the West is being more competitive. The East as well, not to the extent of the West. There's so many teams in the West that you cannot count anybody out besides the notable, bottom tier teams as far as the Spurs and the Trailblazers. Maybe another team or two there. Maybe the Jazz might not really make it, but who knows? It is still really early. But I mean, we'll see going forward. I'm really excited. And then, of course, we do have to talk about the Lakers. Right now, they are the number 6 seed. They have an 8-6 record. And with this sample size, I mean, not yesterday, but the day before, they narrowly beat the Rockets by 1 point. Again, just like with them playing with the Warriors, Sengun that game was he was everywhere. I mean, he hit just the clutchest layups that he could towards the end of the game. They were down by 4. He clutched it up, ended up making it a one possession game. I mean, LeBron ended up missing one layup. He had an amazing game though, and it's just it's hard to say. It is frustrating as a Laker fan to see LeBron have to do as much as he is, and I know I say this every single episode, but it is really frustrating to see LeBron have to do so much. And I think this past week, it has shown the depth kind of pick it up significantly, in my opinion. I think that there are glimpses of the other players just showing more of their potential of what they can do in their roles. My only issue right now is I know Austin Reeves is he just recently received a contract. He is going to be a solidified NBA player from that contract, and he deserves it. He is the only player just because of how much he's getting paid, and I understand it's not a lot compared to what he could have received, but I haven't been impressed. The only reason why I'm not so anti Reeves right now is because he is clutch, and it shows a lot of games this season so far. Is he has the ability to help out LeBron at the end when everybody just becomes non-existent. I know Anthony Davis, we already know everything about him. I'm not going to get into him with that, but when it's not LeBron, Austin Reeves is the guy to make that clutch shot. I mean, just look at the last game with the Rockets, the same one that happened 2 nights ago. Don't remember if it was Sunday or Monday. I want to say it was Sunday. I mean, he hit a deep three, and if it wasn't for that shot, LeBron trusted him with that pass. If he didn't make that, we would have lost. I mean, there's no way that we would have won that without that shot. So, I mean, at least he did that, but it has been a little disappointing. I mean, the fact that I like D'Angelo Russell more right now says a lot, because to me, D'Angelo Russell is the one that I thought was the way that Reeves is playing is how Russell would have been playing right now. He has been more consistent than Reeves, and to me, I just wasn't expecting that. So I don't know what's going on. He has been having a shooting slump. It hasn't been looking good. I don't know if he's just forcing too many shots still. I don't know. I mean, it looks like he's improving a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see going forward. I know we do have a winning record right now, 8-6. I am disappointed. In between the time that we had the last episode to this one, there was a road trip that they had. It was a three game road trip, and they lost two. Or during that road trip, there is two notable games that they played that I was baffled. At that point, I really thought that we were going to just play like last year during the first half, and we were just going to be a really mediocre team. And those two games that they played, it was against of course, the Rockets and the Magic. And with those two games, I mean, I don't even think we only lost, but we lost by 15 plus, if not 20 plus. And I mean, it's good signs for the Rockets and Magic. I have said a lot of praise on them. They are an up and coming team. They just need a couple more years, and they are going to be a top team. Top teams in the in their respective conferences. Considering the now with the team that we have compared to the team they have, it should never be a blowout. And I understand teams, have bad games here and there, but during that time, I mean, we've won 2 games since then, so we had potentially a negative record at that time. And seeing how they were playing is just like there was no urgency. Nobody was really doing much besides, again, LeBron. I really hope that we don't go through. I mean, if we go through slumps, at least be competitive. I mean, losing to a team that their best players are under 24, 23 years old, it's not a good look. I mean, at that point, I still don't think we're contenders unless they show me otherwise within the next couple months. But I think our main question right now that I think has been missing since the beginning of the season is Jared Vanderbilt. I know they were talking about once the season started, he was injured. He hasn't played a game yet, but it's been about, I think, a week, because the beginning of the season they were saying he'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks and he'll be good. The 2 weeks passed. I know they're saying that he has made progress, but as far as returning 2 games, I don't know when he's coming back. It's just, I think he does have the potential. That play style that he makes, he's the hustle guy. He's the guy that does everything that not any player just does. He makes all those plays, those key important plays that you don't see on the stat line, but if you watch the games, you will understand how important Jared Vanderbilt is. I think once he comes back, maybe at that point we'll end up seeing that next tier of, considering being a contender. So hopefully that does work out. I know a really, really big topic, probably the biggest topic right now in the NBA, is the Chicago Bulls. Right before the weekend, there was talks about Zach Lavine and the Bulls both finally conversing with each other, both agreeing and having interest in trading away Zach Lavine. They are also wanting to potentially trade the other two. Actually, I think everybody, the most notable players. I mean, Zach Lavine, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, Vucevic. I mean, they're gonna just blow it all up, and I think they should have done this a while ago, while everybody's trade value was even higher. But I mean, it's better late than never. At least they're gonna try and do it now. I know for probably the most one that everyone's anticipating is Zach Lavine. His trade destinations, he has already even stated. He is wanting to either go to the Lakers, 76ers, or the Heat. And will all of those teams get better if he gets traded there? Of course. The most questionable one to me is the 76ers. I think after everything that's happened, all the turmoil with James Harden, I think it's best if they just kind of don't make any notable trades and just stay where they are now. That's just my opinion. I don't know if that is for the better or not, but as far as the team I would least want him to be is the 76ers. You guys already know who I would like to most likely him go to is the Lakers. I know Gilbert Arenas. I saw his podcast the other day, and they were asking him where he would want Zach Lavine to go to, and where does he think they would need Zach Lavine. And I think he got it right. I think for me, I would want the Lakers. I do have questions on that. I am a little afraid of if he goes over there, just how much we would give up, because I don't think he is worth a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want them to try and trade away those key pieces that we need to be the contenders. Because if we give away too much, there's going to be no point, really. I mean, we're going to have just another big name and just get knocked out in the first round, maybe second round, and that's it. We would have a bigger run last year than this year. But I do believe the Heat definitely need Zach Lavine. I don't know. I am not a fan of really the whole Heat culture thing. It's to me, it's not really a thing. Jimmy Butler is the only guy for me that makes the team. I mean, besides Bam Adebayo, but they definitely need him. I mean, if he does go to the Heat, they definitely look like a completely different team. And I mean, considering how much they potentially can do without even a third star, what they've done, that seems like they always just go unnoticed every year. Now imagine that, but with Zach Lavine. Again, with that, it just depends on who they end up giving up. I think they could make that work, especially with their coaching staff. That would be pretty exciting going forward. That would make me interested to watch a Heat game. As of now, I'm not, but we'll see. I know with the Lakers, it's just it's tough because I've seen a lot of different interesting trade offers that people have been coming up with just to see what it would look like, what works, what doesn't, and it looks like what mainly people have been looking at is the main piece would have to be one of the three, being Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Gabe Vincent. I know that is I want to say it's two of the three would have to go based off salary is what it mainly is. And then probably a first round pick and maybe just another secondary player that could potentially be a Rui, Jared Vanderbilt. I will say right now that if they trade Jared Vanderbilt, the whole point of this season is just there's no point. I mean, I think that he is the glue that we're missing. Luckily, we have him. He's just injured right now. And if they try to improve but get rid of a key piece, like I was saying earlier, we're not going to do anything this year. I can't believe I'm saying this, but right now I would be more keen on trading away Austin Reeves than D'Angelo. I mean, if we're getting a shooting guard, we might as well trade away one of our shooting guards. At least D'Lo can play the one, even though I know we do have LeBron and he can be a playmaker. I mean, unless they want to go the route of making LeBron the number one so he can be the facilitator, he can step down on scoring. Hopefully he's able to do that with Zach Lavine. You never know, but if that can happen, then sure, maybe we can get rid of D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, and as much as I wouldn't want to get rid of Rui, I mean, if we have to get Zach Lavine, at that point, I think it's worth it, along with the first round pick. That would be an ideal scenario for me. I know I'm speaking on biases, but that would be good. As long as we can keep either D'Lo or Reeves, it would be good, and just not trade Jared Vanderbilt. Gabe Vincent is the first one that's gonna go. I mean, he's injured right now. I haven't even really seen him play, so there's no attachment on him with the Lakers at all. I mean, to me right now, he's more of a Heat player than a Laker player right now. So he can get traded. I don't really care. I hope that the Lakers don't try to get Derozan. Honestly, more than anything, is just really just based off play style. I would like somebody that can shoot the three and just go into the paint for those easy buckets. I think every time I see DeRozan, he's only like an old school mid range player, and at this day of age, it's not. I don't see it working. Maybe it will. You never know. I mean, he is a more experienced vet, possibly make that work. But also his age. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it would be a good fit. We would just be giving up even more youth that we already don't have. Um, I would rather him go somewhere else. Hopefully, we don't get DeRozan. The other notable for me, that might even be the most important one, is Caruso. I think because he's not a like an all-star, he's not going to be getting much back as far as actual assets. Now, picks is a little different. I know that that is also one of the assets, but I wouldn't mind giving away a first round pick. Two first round picks I've been seeing around there that maybe people want to give away in there, but I think two might be a little much. I'd rather give away a player and a pick for Caruso. I've been seeing the Bulls play here and there, and he is really good. I mean, for what he does, I know I didn't even realize he's 29 now. I thought he was a little younger than that. So that's one thing. But he definitely is a piece that can give a contender that push to get further into the playoffs. He definitely has that. So I would be a little more keen on him for sure than DeRozan. Zach Lavine, I know he has a higher upside for sure, but oh man, just the fact of how much we would have to give up, I don't even know if it would be worth it. We'd have to just wait and see. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how that's gonna go. And I know one of the issues right now is it kind of just depends on how urgent the Bulls are to get rid of him because a lot of our players have had new contracts over the summer, so we're not even able to make any trades yet until January. So if the Bulls are just wanting to get rid of somebody, within this month or next month, there's nothing we can really do. I mean, we have to wait for, I think Austin Reeves. We have to wait for maybe Jared Vanderbilt, maybe not actually. Gabe Vincent, D'Lo. There's just so many key pieces to a trade. It just sucks that we have to wait until January for it. But hopefully, if that interest is there and they wait for us in January, we can take one of them. Just not DeRozan. I hope we don't get DeRozan. That's the only one for me. Another thing that did happen this past weekend, since I did make, not the past weekend, I don't remember what day, maybe it was a Friday. But anyways, Draymond Green did another Draymond Green. I don't know what else to call it. He had another 5 game suspension with an incident he had. I know there was a issue that I don't remember what player it was, but Klay Thompson got tangled up with some other player on the Timberwolves, and there was pushing, shoving involved. Rudy Gobert approached the two along with other players. Draymond Green decided to just, for some reason, just jump in there and choke out Rudy Gobert. To be honest, that's just embarrassing. I don't know how else to explain it, but somebody to react that way to something that was happening, I understand that certain angles it almost looked like Rudy Gobert was gonna do the same or something similar to Klay Thompson. I don't know. It's just weird to see Draymond Green do that. I mean, he's trying to portray a type of player. He is like the enforcer, of this era, like the main enforcer, and he is. But I think he goes overboard, and that's not what an enforcer does. To an extent, I think his maneuvers, like his way of handling things, is just weird. I mean, the way he goes behind him and just like, kind of drags him around. All the other incidents with like his just kicking and like just I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's proud of when he does that kind of stuff, but I don't know what it's going to take for him to learn. I mean, he's already towards the end of his career, so I'm sure he'll never learn. He'll probably make a justification on that at some point. Who knows? But I think one of the issues though with the organization of the Warriors is that they keep letting it happen. There's no, and I get it. It's not like it's college ball. College ball, the faculty that they have the power over the players. And I understand it with professional ball, it's different. So that is the only Tricky thing. You don't want to get on the bad side of some players, but I don't think Draymond Green is really a player that will impact someone's career like that. I I mean, it almost seems like even like the head coach Steve Kerr kind of allows it to happen. I know with the incident that he did, speaking of Draymond Green, that he did with Jordan Poole, it almost seemed like Steve Kerr kind of just didn't care about it. Like that, I don't know how else to explain it. It almost seemed he was okay with it. I think with that mentality, that's what's causing all this to happen, maybe. And who knows what's gonna cause this to finally make it stop. But like I said, it's never gonna stop. It's who Draymond is. I mean, he has made a lot of key moments for the organization, and I believe he will be a Hall of Famer for them. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have some of the rings, not all, but some. It's just it's disappointing. That's the only way. That's the only thing I can say. All right. So last thing I want to say about the Warriors, I feel like this year they're definitely struggling. This year it definitely feels like a significant has been a significant drop in just overall performance on the team. I know they're definitely done with the dynasty. There's just no question about that. I mean, based off of everything that's been happening, the only player that is still that guy is Curry. I mean, Curry hasn't missed a step. He's still a superstar. He's still in his prime. I mean, it's kind of crazy to say, but he is still a superstar. Top five, probably. Oh, definitely top five when he's playing. I know he just came back from injury. He did as much as he could last night with his 32-5 against the Rockets. But I mean, he's the only guy out there. If no one else is doing anything, they're gonna struggle. And it almost seems like this entire season kind of a loss for Curry. I mean, he's in his prime, and they're most likely not gonna really do much. I'm sure they'll get into the playoffs. They'll probably get knocked out in the first round. There's no more glory days for them. It almost kind of makes me question. I don't know if it's too much to say, but I almost wonder if maybe they should trade away maybe Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, do something to make this season not. Maybe there'll be a team that will end up getting one of the Bulls players. You never know what'll happen. If that happened, I mean, I would be surprised. I'm not expecting that to happen, but just the idea of them doing something to try and accomplish something this year, I mean, it would be right now to do it before it gets a little too late and they're worth absolutely nothing. I mean, they're old. They're getting onto their mid 30s. I want to say, if not already there. Klay Thompson has been just beyond disappointing. I know he had that really just devastating injury that he lost, years in his career, and he came back and he wasn't the same, but he was still very, very viable. Now it's nowhere near there, and it is sad to see. I mean, Draymond Green has also regressed. Andrew Wiggins, I have no idea what's going on with him. He has not really done anything. It is really sad to see. I don't know. It's just they got to do something if they're trying to, still continue off of that Curry legacy. They got to do something now, because if they wait even until another year, at that point it might just be over. You'll give another team that's on the come up an extra year to get better. The Thunder, they're here sooner rather than later. Rockets, I didn't realize, but they're going to be here sooner rather than later. So they got to do it either now. If not, they're going to miss that opportunity. And at that point, they're just going to have to start moving forward from there without being any sort of contenders. Not even contenders. They might even not make the playoffs starting next year. So we'll see what happens from there. Just really quick, I do want to mention with the Phoenix Suns, they've also been struggling. It's just a very weird trend that's been happening. I feel like it could just be me, but I feel like everywhere Durant goes it's either him or his teammates are just always injured. It's just unlucky. With Bradley Beal, he's only played 5 games out of the season. Now we're pushing on maybe 12 games, maybe 13 games on the season. And I know Booker has been injured too. So we haven't actually seen the true potential of this team. There is still a huge upside that can potentially happen, obviously, especially on the offensive side. It makes me wonder, maybe they should trade away, because I was always in question on Bradley Beal. I don't see why they would need, if there was going to be a big three, they should have made a big three with a big, I know DeAndre Ayton didn't work out for the Suns, and they finally moved away from him. They can just go forward with that. And Yusuf Nurkic has been good. Don't get me wrong. Maybe instead of a 5, they can get a 4, a really good 4. Who knows? I know. I mean, my last topic I was going to mention was with the Pelicans. I know that the Pelicans have been struggling with a lot, and I know they did have a big win yesterday, but that's not a good example of how their season has been going. I mean, they've also been riddled with injuries, and considering just how much they have to look forward to, they have Zion. He was a number one overall pick 3-4 years ago. He was considered I mean, he was going to be a very big player, coming up right off the bat, and he was. He kept getting injured. I think more than anything, what I feel bad for is Brandon Ingram. I feel like he's always made it right every year. He's always there to play. There's nothing, off the court issues. Unlike with Zion, he's just all over the place. But Brandon Ingram, if I was him, I would want to trade. There's no reason to be with the Pelicans. He's starting to get a little bit older. He's starting to turn into a vet now in this league. I mean, he's been in the league now for, I don't know how, maybe 2016, 2017. I mean, he's been in the league for quite a while now. Next thing you know, he's going to be a 10-year vet. If I were him, I would try to go somewhere else. I mean, who knows? Maybe the Suns. I would rather have a Brandon Ingram than a Bradley Beal on the Suns. If I were the Suns, or if I was a fan of the Suns, it definitely sounds a lot better. I'm not too sure how that will end up really looking. It's just an idea, or maybe even take Zion. I mean, if you're gonna have injured players, you might as well have Zion than Bradley Beal, which I understand would be probably a lot more expensive to have, especially after this contract ends. But I mean, try something. I think if they want to try and win a ring soon, they should probably just get rid of Bradley Beal. And I know I'm saying this without even seeing what they could even do. But I mean, if they can try to do that now, if I was them, that's what I would do. I wouldn't really want to see the Pelicans blow it up, really. It's just, I have high hopes on the Pelicans. I think if everything goes right, they are a good team. It's just, don't get me wrong. I enjoy seeing the Pelicans play when they're healthy. I haven't even mentioned McCollum yet. I mean, I think he's still injured, so we'll just have to see how that goes. I know with the Suns, it's just been unlucky for both teams, and maybe it is just jumping the gun to try and make something happen now. But at the same time, it's just, you got to try something before you just kind of get lost with everybody else improving. It just seems like there's so many teams that are improving that if you don't do anything or there's no signs of something happening good, you're gonna just end up being a team that's kind of stuck in mediocrity. You just don't want to get stuck in that because you can end up just staying there for a long time if you don't try to improve. Yeah, I mean that's everything I wanted to really cover. I do hope you guys did enjoy. You guys just leave a like, subscribe. I am planning on making these every week. I'll also be posting some shorts that'll, give little snippets of the podcast, here and there. So I do hope you guys did enjoy and you guys had a good time. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.